All right. We should be good to go.
All right, well, I guess we can just start with the roll call.
So I'll say your name, and if you would just say here, Tracy Justice, Dave Kaufman,
Here.
Dave Jackson,
Here.
Jennifer Thompson,
Here.
Jonathan DeArmond,
Here.
Steve Schecker,
Here.
Camille Davis Alfs,
Here.
and then just for the record, Rudy is here from the Parks Department, Delbert is here from the Parks Department, and I am Ryan Cannon.
Great. So introductions. Is there anyone that needs to be introduced?
I don't think so, actually. I just noticed that. I think I missed taking that off from your last
Okay.
agenda, so.
I thought so. On the last agenda, we met everyone, so it made sense. So
Nope,
wasn't
sorry,
sure.
that's my bad.
Okay. And then it looks like next is public comments. Is there anyone here for public comments? It's kind of a virtual meeting, so not really sure.
Yeah, let me just check YouTube and see.
Okay.
We do not have any comments, and it appears nobody is watching, so
Okay. I was just going to look too.
so
All right.
you may proceed.
Okay.
Sorry, I'll pull the agenda back up.
Oh, no problem. All right, so are the minutes available to display to approve, or?
I
How do
can,
we
yes.
use
Yep,
Okay, if you could show those.
here's the minutes.
Should I go through them, or do we just read them?
I don't, hopefully, I tried to send these to you guys. I'm sorry I didn't get them to you earlier, but Dave, I would just say, does anyone have any comments? And if you
Okay.
guys want to read through them really quick, or if some of you had the opportunity to review them prior to the meeting.
I noticed an error on 4A. Like the second sentence, it says the asked, and it should say they asked.
Got it. I see it.
Yep.
Got my
Okay.
name wrong. Jonathan, not Jonathan.
That sounds cooler.
Yeah, I guess my name has 2 F's instead of 1, but
Gotcha.
I think the general gist of what we talked about is correct, though.
My last name is missing the second half.
Yep. Gosh. We really butchered your name. Sorry, everybody.
It's okay.
So if you guys don't have any other substantial questions, you guys could just make a motion to approve with the amendments, and then we'll modify it based on the input you guys just gave us. Here's down to the bottom if you guys need anything else.
I'll motion to approve.
And I'll second that.
All right, looks like they're approved.
Nope, sorry, you guys got to vote. So you have a motion, you have a second, so then you just need to vote.
Okay.
And if you want, you can just do all in favor, say 4, and all against, say 4, and unless you want me to do roll call, which is painful. So I'd say let's avoid doing that if we can.
All right, well, let's do the all in favor, say 4.
4.
Or
4. All opposed? All right, so they are passed.
Yeah, approved 6-0.
Approved. Yep, 6-0. All right, so I think we're on to new business. The first topic is the discussion of the plaque. We had the presentation last meeting from Charles Bauman, and I guess this is to come back and discuss it further and make a decision.
Correct. Yeah, I think you guys had asked for some additional information, and I'll maybe let Delbert speak because I think he's talked to Mr. Bauman's family. I don't believe they intend to provide any additional information, but I'll maybe let Delbert speak to that.
Correct. He reached out to me probably about 2 weeks ago now, asking. He understood that we are in a crisis and whatnot, but no further information. He's willing to meet again, but the information is the same as it was left when he first met with us in the council chamber. He told his story. He would like to have the plaque of Charles added to the Avon Town Hall Park. He's willing to allow us to pick the location. I know you guys had discussed the relevantness, if it was relevant enough to add to our park, and if it had enough history to make it something that the Avon Town Hall Park should add.
Right, that's what I remember as well. It seemed like we were struggling to find a tie to Avon.
Yeah, I think the location he kind of mentioned was more Wayne Township. I don't know if it was actually in Marion. Was it like, I can't remember if it was on the east side of Reagan or Raceway, or how far it went. I don't remember.
I believe he said it was in a neighborhood on the east side of Raceway.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't think it really tied to Avon that well. So if he's firm at being at Town Hall Park, I'd definitely say no. I remember we were open to maybe a spot on a trail or something. But as far as Town Hall Park goes, it doesn't make sense in my mind.
Yeah, yes, and I had, thought about on the B&O trail, since it crosses Raceway there, and maybe, it's not developed on the east side of Raceway yet, but we do own that all the way to Tanzel. And I had planted the seed, I brought it up to our board, but we haven't taken any specific action on it. But that might be a better location, and I think, or even in Speedway, and there's a lot of trail development that's happened in Speedway. The B&O trail will actually get developed from Big Eagle Creek into Speedway, and then on the other side into through Hawville and all that into downtown. So there may be a better spot in that area that may be coming available where it might be a better fit. And I'm certainly happy to continue those efforts to try to find a location maybe that would be more suitable. And I think the closer it is to Speedway, the better.
Yeah, because it's racing related, so that does seem like more of a tie-in to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or even closer to like whoever owns it now, O'Reilly Raceway Park and all that over there too. So
Oh, that's true.
yeah, it makes more sense out that way.
Okay. Is this something, Ryan, that would be taken to a vote so I could relay the message to him? Or how does this usually wrap up?
Yeah, it's up to you guys, but I would, you guys are a recommending group. So what I would suggest is that you guys make a recommendation to the town council that he actually, we'll try to put it in a nice way, recommend that he put it somewhere else other than Town Hall Park. And then Delbert can kind of share that with him. And if he wants to pursue it to the town council, he would be permitted to do that. But then we would share with them that you guys basically gave it a negative recommendation to be installed in the park. And I believe they'd follow your recommendation, especially after hearing his presentation as well. So that's what I would suggest.
All right. Well, I'll make a motion to recommend against this, but also provide information to him about maybe approaching the B&O group. I'll make that motion.
And I'll second that.
All right. So all in favor, say 4.
Or
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 All right. Any opposed? All right. Then I think that's agreed upon. 6-0.
Perfect. Great. Thank you.
All right, so next up is the naming of parks and trails. I have to say, I got a bit distracted with all this stuff going on, and I had not spent a lot of time contemplating this. But hopefully other people have. So I guess we should open the floor for discussion and comments.
I think we had last discussed that maybe Delbert and Ryan and Rudy come up with some different ideas that we could review and, you know, determine a process. I mean, or we could do it ourselves, but I think they've got more time to dedicate it towards this. Were you guys able to do any of that?
Yeah, that's a good lead in. So we did start doing some work, and in all honesty, I may have dropped the ball on this a little bit, because when I read your minutes today, I realized that, Steve, that's exactly what you said. You asked if we could come up with like 4 or 5 criteria to start naming trails. And so I didn't quite go down that path. And again, I wasn't looking for you guys to do something today. I've progressed on identifying all of them. I guess my thoughts are that maybe at your next meeting, we can maybe delve into this a little bit further. But we did make some progress in identifying all of the areas. And so I at least wanted to share that with you guys. On top of the fact, we kind of identified all the parks and we identified all the trails. And so I wanted to at least share that with you guys so that you guys have some perspective. And so I'll maybe walk you through this spreadsheet that I have. And then this is in the packet that I sent you guys. So Steve, I will do what you recommended. We'll come up with a couple recommendations for you guys. But I think seeing this list will be important for you guys to kind of understand how many names we need to come up with, and maybe what we already have that we feel like is named. And so I'm kind of sharing my screen here. So the first list is parks. And so to kind of walk you through what I did, I kind of have 2 columns. I have a recommended name column and I have an official name column. Recommended name is kind of what staff is suggesting that you call them. Official name are things we feel like, although we haven't taken an official action to give them a name, we have really named these already. And so the ones, these won't be of great shock to you, but Town Hall Park, Gable Park, and the World War II Memorial Park. You know, we feel those are established given names. We've got a couple other properties then, which, you know, we've kind of given them common names, but we may not want that to actually be their names. And again, for the next meeting, I'll hopefully be a little better prepared, and I'll have some maps for you guys to be able to see this. And it'd probably be a little bit easier discussion to do this in person versus on here. Normally I'd pull up the GIS and I'd show you guys where they're at in the GIS and stuff, but it's kind of hard to do on this virtual meeting. But again, at least we can give you some guidance on this. So Winton Meadows Park is the park just south of 200 North and 900 East. It's right by Winton Meadows. We own the the southeast corner of Ronald Reagan Parkway and 100 North. It's just a wooded area. And so we as staff kind of refer to that as a Ronald Reagan Forest Preserve. Those of you who have been on the Parks Council for a while, this is the one that Charlotte Martin wanted to name after her neighborhood. Her neighborhood's not in town, so I don't know that we want to do that. But for those of you who've been around for a while, the next 4 are kind of interesting because, and again, we can maybe discuss this a little more later, but these are like small green spaces that when the town has been doing intersection improvement projects, we've acquired like a whole property for a roundabout at an intersection, but we didn't necessarily need that whole intersection for the construction of the road. So we've kind of left little green spaces there. And so, you know, those we may want to handle differently. Maybe we don't want to name them, you know, I'm not sure, but we've kind of identified those. Just, you know, we may want to think about those differently, but again, still wanted to identify it for you guys. Obviously 100 South and Dan Jones, we've talked about quite a bit, and we've kind of been referring to that as Burnett Park. And then the other one we've got then is the Settlement West Park, which is a property down on the east side of Dan Jones Road between 200 South and Township Line Road. So those are the park properties. The trails, these are kind of the same situation. We've got some names that we're probably recommending that are pretty obvious. And we have a couple of official names that, you know, we've always kind of called White Lake Creek Trail, White Lake Creek Trail. And when we did the Bicentennial Trail, we kind of officially made it that. But the one next to it, so this section, the Stony Meadow, Winton Meadow Trail, is just south of the Bicentennial Trail. It's actually on the same alignment as the Bicentennial, but it runs south. So you'll notice the Bicentennial basically stops at County Road 200 North. The Stony Meadow Winton Meadow Trail runs from 200 North all the way to 100 North. So it's a nice mile-long segment, but it has no name. We kind of just call it the Stony Meadow Winton Meadow Trail because it runs through Stony Meadow and it runs through Winton Meadow. So that's one that we could probably work on. These next two then, the 100, what we kind of call the 100 North Trail and the 100 South Trail, those are kind of similar. You know, I think staff's recommendation is if trails are along roads, that we just name them after the roads, and that it helps identify to people where they are. And so I don't really want to call it the 100 North Trail, but I know we're going through some efforts to potentially rename some streets as well. And so this may be something where we just make a decision that we're going to name it after whatever street it is. And that's kind of the same situation with like the Ronald Reagan Parkway Trail and the Avon Avenue Trail. It doesn't make a lot of sense to give those trails a different name because people won't associate it with that. So I think on those, we would probably recommend following the street name. They're really side paths. They're not necessarily trails. And so then these next three are ones that I think we really do need to come up with a name for. We kind of call it the Lingerman Drain Trail for those of you who use the Town Hall Park. The connection that kind of runs out to the east of the Town Hall Park, the drain that flows through there is called the Lingerman Drain. And so we've kind of always called it the Lingerman Drain Trail. Right now it connects and goes to the library, but eventually it'll go underneath Avon Avenue and it'll continue all the way up to Harvest Ridge and connect to the 100 North Trail. And so again, it's kind of been easy to name it after the trail, or as we've commonly referred to it. The next two are kind of interesting that I think would be good to come up with names for, and that's the connection between the Town Hall Park and Washington Township Park. Again, we've kind of referred to that as the White Lake Creek Trail, but it's really not. And so it would probably be better served to be called something else. I mean, and then the piece that's under construction right now is the connection between the Town Hall Park over to the Avon Avenue Trail. And that one's kind of the same thing. It doesn't follow Avon Avenue. It runs out east through the Town Hall Park. It runs across the frontage of Avon United Methodist Church. Then it's actually going to run south and run past the intermediate schools and connect to Avon Avenue. So again, I think that would be a good one. And again, kind of calling it the connection between Town Hall and Avon Avenue is not a really very good trail name. So I think those are good opportunities for naming stuff. So again, kind of wanted to share that with you guys and at least give you an idea of kind of what we're looking at. Like Steve said, I apologize. I read the minutes and realized that you guys had asked staff to come up with like 5 criteria, and I did not do that, but I will be prepared to do that and maybe have a little bit lengthier discussion with you guys at your September meeting.
I think the other thing we need to consider too is if there's a good opportunity for community involvement, like if we come up with 3 or 4 names for one of these trails, and you know, we might feel strongly one way and we get ultimate veto. But I mean, if we kind of let the community have some involvement in the name, that might give it a little more recognition and things too.
Yeah, that could be fun.
Yeah, I think if we developed if we brainstormed and let's say we come up with, you know, a list of 12, we whittle it down to 4 or 5, that maybe then getting public input would help. If we've already kind of vetted the list, that might help the process than just making it an open sort of hey, give us your ideas. But Brian or Ryan, the bicentennial, the word bicentennial is spelled wrong in your list. Have that down on the trail. I think it's isn't it? There's one end
yeah.
and then two ends at the end. It's you got the ends, the double and the single end switched around.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I would hate to see that on the sign.
No, I won't do that.
Good time to catch it.
That's right. I think there's already a sign out there, so hopefully it's probably correct.
Well, we could just tell everyone we spell the things the way we want to in Avon.
Yeah,
That's right.
That was
And then
creative
there's
naming.
two ends at the end there. Yeah, NNIAL, I believe. Let's see.
I think you're right.
Bicentennial. One thought I had as I was looking at this list, and Ryan, if you could send this out, it would be great because I'd like to print it out and looking at some of these trails and maybe in my own mind coming up with some ideas. But like the connection between Avon Avenue and the town hall, you know, it's going to cross 36 and go through the school property and all that. And maybe the trail itself doesn't lend itself to, oh, that should be the X or Y or whatever. But if we come up with some ideas about themes or names we could give to these trails, and one that I'm thinking of, like Avon Railroad Heritage Trail, you know, and kind of as acknowledging our railroad heritage, and maybe that means we could do some things along that part of the trail, along with the theme that kind of talks about our railroad heritage or agricultural heritage trail, or you know, some things like that. I guess it's a different way to maybe think about things, to give them a purpose and not just their location.
Yeah. By the way, this is in the packet that he sent for the pre-read for the meeting. This information is in that packet.
Oh, perfect.
Yep, and I can provide it to you guys as a spreadsheet as well. Like if you guys want to doodle on it and make notes and come up with thoughts. I figured this kind of format would be a little easier for you guys to visualize versus the previous conversations we had, which was kind of very high level.
Yeah, this is great because we can like stare at it and look for patterns and things like that. So yeah, this is good.
And Ryan, the Settlement West Park, is that the Turner property or which part, where is the Turner property?
Well, so the Settlement West Park is the Turner property. So we kind of refer to it as a Settlement West Park because it was donated to us as part of the Settlement West process. But the Turners did donate a portion of that property, but it wasn't all donated by the Turners. A portion of it was from the developer as well. But yes, that is. So that's when we had thrown out, like, if we want a name after people, we could call that Turner Park, or something like that if we choose to do that.
I like the idea of going with coming up with maybe themes. I think that's a great one. And the other option I was thinking of, the way you were describing some of these, even adding like northwest, south, or east into the name. So we have some idea, like if someone's looking at a list, they would have some idea where to look on which side of the town they're on. Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's all I really need at the moment. Well, if you guys can kind of keep brainstorming, and I'll email this list out to you guys. And then at your September meeting, I'll try to have some criteria for you guys to look at, as well as some maps to maybe help you guys visualize the locations of all of these, which may help you then in coming up with it. And then I like your guys' idea about including the community, but I think we do have to give them some guidelines if we decide we want to do that.
All right.
Perfect.
I think that sounds good. I think we should probably move on to the next topic, we're running slightly behind, but I think we're fine. The next topic under new business is the tree board meeting. So I'm not sure
Yeah.
what that is.
I'll kind of walk you guys through it. So for those of you who are new, the town is a Tree City USA. And so one of the requirements of our Tree City USA is that we have to hold tree board meetings. We have to have we have to have a tree board, and two, we have to hold occasional tree board meetings. And so we do have some ordinances that require, like, if people want to do certain things to trees, they have to come to the tree board. It's very rare that we do it. And in this case, we didn't want to duplicate and have a bunch of boards. So the town council made the Parks Council the tree board as well. So just once or twice a year, normally we have to do a tree board meeting. And so I think Delbert's going to walk you through it really quick. We're just going to give you guys an update on our tree sale and some of the things we've been doing for Tree City USA. And then we can close the tree board meeting.
Sure.
Awesome.
So I'm going to give you guys a couple details and facts about how tree sale was going, Memorial Tree Program, and then our new date for Arbor Day. We have planned to do it on Arbor Day, I think, which was April 26th, I think it was. But due to circumstances, of course, we have to change that. So starting with the spring tree sale, which occurred the month of March through early April, we sold 44 trees and 16 shrubs, a combined total of 60. And there was a 2-round delivery system. Also, the Avon Fall Tree Sale is scheduled to run August 3rd through August 28th with the same method. As far as our new Arbor Day date, we were thinking September 4th, which is a Friday. We have 2 plans, either to once again try to work with the schools if possible, or maybe this time we step away from working with the schools, which we've done for many of years, and try to do maybe a community tree ceremony where we get together, plant some trees in a certain location to help benefit Avon. And lastly, we have a memorial tree program. I'm not sure if everyone knows about this, but we offer the community a chance to have a tree planted at the Avon Town Hall Park. This year, we've only had one. It's, I think, around $200 to get your tree planted, and it also comes with a headstone. So those are some of the things that Avon does to promote planting trees and be part of the Tree City USA.
Oh, nice. All right.
I don't think we need anything else from you guys. Do you guys have any questions, or do you have any suggestions of other things you'd like to see staff doing to encourage a tree canopy or support tree planting in Avon?
Is it only within the city or the town limits, or is it available for those who live in the neighborhoods just outside of the town limits?
If you're speaking on the tree sale, free delivery for Avon residents, but surrounding towns can also buy trees from us. But as long as you're within Avon, we'll come and actually deliver it to your doorstep.
This may be interesting to reach out to some of the neighborhoods just outside there. I know my neighborhood, we're looking to plant trees. So this may be something really interesting that other neighborhoods, especially some of the older ones where they're starting to lose trees, may be interested.
Sure, yeah, and I'll reach out to you after this meeting, and maybe we can connect and share some information.
Okay, sounds wonderful.
That sounds great. So
You guys can close the tree board meeting then.
let's close the tree board meeting. That's interesting. Something to put on your resume.
There you go.
Tree board. But I think the next part of the meeting is the staff updates. And so I think we're starting out with Farmers Market, which
Sure.
It was a good first week.
Yes, thank you for coming out. As some of you may know, this previous Tuesday was our first Avon Farmers Market. We were very excited to get back on track. There were some bumps in the road, of course, but we were able to make it happen, which is very special for us because the Farmers Market is such a special, continuous event that happens within Avon that a lot of people are excited to get out to, support their local farmers, buy that fresh produce, and also give farmers a chance to sell their crops. So every Tuesday from 4 to 7 p.m. from the Hoosiers Regional Health and the Avon, we have our Avon Farmers Market. We encourage all of you guys to come out. And if you want to, and I think some of you do, want to volunteer with us, please email me and I will give you details on how you can help us. We always need help with early setup and early closing. And there's always stuff to do in the middle. As soon as we get back on track, we'll try to open up our kids zone that we usually do and some other different little things that we do to try to help provide other things to do while you're at the market other than just shop. And lastly, before we leave the farmers market alone, there was a lot of questions on, well, hey, isn't there usually more vendors? There's usually more vendors here. Yes, there is, but we are trying to safely add vendors in a way that allows us to keep control of the market and keep the customers safe. Moving into the next Tuesday of the farmers market, we plan to try to add up to 12 more vendors to the location.
That's great. Yeah, definitely. I'd be interested in volunteering. I probably have more opportunity to right now with the working from home than I normally do, because normally I'm downtown. But being that I live at 100 South and Dan Jones, I'm pretty close. So if you need help with setup, tear down, that kind of thing, or even sitting at the tent, I can probably do that.
Perfect.
So any questions for Delbert? All right, well then I guess let's move on to the events and programs.
Sure. Me and Rudy just want to take a moment and kind of update you guys, right? You guys haven't heard from us in a while, and with the virus going on and everything, how are things working at home, right? We were able to do 4 live virtual events and have a really strong show support week where we encourage Monday through Sunday a different way to support your community. That went very well. We were able to raise a little over $400 for the Feed the Front Line that the Avon Chamber of Commerce was working on. As far as events, we did a live paying in the park. We did a live yoga event. We did a bird watching event. And I think there was one more that's slipping my mind right now. But all those events went successful. We had a large turnout as far as live viewers. Those were all free events, and I think the community really enjoyed still having a way to connect with other community members while being stuck at the house.
Now, what events ended up being canceled, and will any of those be rescheduled?
Very good question. And the one event that was canceled was the Spring Fling Festival, which is our RC Spring Fling Festival, is where we have radio controlled cars, boats, and planes in the sky. They're planning to reschedule for the fall. Now, will it happen for sure? I'm not sure, but it's a plan. They're planning to do it in the fall. Some dates were moved. Another big event that we are on the fence about is the Harvest Time Hayride. Our first time doing it was last year. It's a huge event. We had over 2,000 people, but we're not sure if we want to promote something like that this year. So that's probably another event that will be canceled. Outside of that, Reed, is there any other events I'm missing that?
Oh, we can throw in there the Sunday night blue light in the sky was shown to conclude the Show Your Sport Week. Something new we tried this year. We have some pictures. We'll show those on our reports. Yeah, a very bright blue light got shown in the sky, and you could see it from like half mile driving around the park, and people actually came to the park just to see the light. Pretty good way to develop morale and see people, even though you can't get out of your car, you can see people coming to the park.
And paying in the parks were rescheduled as well. We'll have our first live paying in the park this month, June 14th, with Flory Phillips, and it's already sold out. So people are excited to get back out the house. This will be at the outdoor shelter at the Avon Town Hall Park. So we were very excited to see how quickly it's sold out and how quickly people are ready to engage with the community and be back outdoors.
Great.
Yeah,
what about
Could
are any
you,
of the? Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, would you mind mentioning to the Parks Council? I know we partner with the township for concerts and movies in the park. Can you kind of
Yes.
update them on what you're thinking on those?
Yes, we partner with Washington Township Park and Avon Chamber of Commerce for the Concerts by the Creek. We have a 3 series usually that happens. So that's been rescheduled. I think the first one may be July 10th. And the plan is to still move forward with the Concerts by the Creek, which happens at the Pavilion at Washington Township Park. It's a pretty large event with close to 300 people attending. So there'll be some changes as far as how we provide safety to all these people, and if we need to have a limit to this event. That still plans to happen. And as far as Movies on the Hill, that's still a go. We plan to space people out, still have them on the hill at the Avon Town Hall Park, and continue to show movies, but focus on creating space. It's outdoors, so that's always on our side. And that's still a go with the same days, three series Movies on the Hill.
Is the Rib Fest Balloon Glow still a go, or is it off this year?
It is officially off. They made the decision recently. Yes, we did partner with them as well. We were the Balloon Glow half of that. That was sponsored by us. That has officially been taken off the table. Also, it had been moved to the fairgrounds, so it was out of Avon.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of the programs that have already that you guys had set up for the summer, and I guess kind of going into the fall, is everything for the most part like on schedule until like the governor says otherwise? I mean, I know you mentioned a couple, you just mentioned a couple that got rescheduled and whatnot, but is everything kind of still happening?
Yes, a little bit slower, of course. We have video game tournament, which is one of my favorite ones that I created. That got canceled, of course. It's just a lot. It's just too close to contact to have, especially kids do indoors. So that one is officially canceled. But yeah, for the most part, all those events are still happening outdoors, just maybe with a new date.
Has there been any thoughts of adding any events because of canceled events? Just wondering, I think I heard recently that I think the fireworks are canceled downtown Indy and stuff like that. So I'm just wondering if people are going to be looking for things to do around that time.
Right. I definitely agree with you. I've heard that the Avon Chamber of Commerce does plan to provide fireworks for the town of Avon on July 4th, but I've reached out to him to see if we could maybe play a role in that. And as of right now, I'm waiting for a response to see if maybe the town can help play a role in that. And yes, we will be adding new events as time goes on. It seems like Painting the Park seems to be a popular one, so we'll try to add more dates with that. And we're definitely up for suggestions if you guys have any ideas of a good maybe outdoor events that are easy to put on that we could also provide to the community as we move forward.
Okay, definitely something to think about.
Yes.
I definitely like how I've seen a lot more people outside,
Right.
you know, working from home and things like that. So it's good. It means people are going to be more interested in the parks right now as things slowly open back up. So that's kind of nice. A little bit more exposure.
You have anything else, Delbert?
There is one more thing I'd like to mention while I have your guys' attention. The Avon Town Hall, or excuse me, the Avon Parks Department worked on congratulation banners for the seniors. Since, of course, at one point in time they were going to have their ceremony, we were able to get banners up at the Avon High School to show our support for the seniors who graduate this year. So that was a fun project that we were able to work on and implement.
Oh, nice. Yeah, good job on that.
And that's it for me.
All right. Well, I think next on the agenda is site plan updates and public outreach.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you guys a little bit of an overall update on what we were working on and maybe share some bad news with you guys. Just to kind of go back, you know, our plan was that we were hoping to do a bond this year and to allow us to do some of those site developments. Well, the backing supporting financial element to that was our food and beverage fund. And so, as you guys are aware, the 1% food and beverage fund comes from people who are eating out at our restaurants. So the pandemic has hit our food and beverage fund pretty hard. And so over the last 2 months, I've been working with our financial advisors and with the town council and the town manager on kind of what was going to happen. The good news is I'll tell you that so far our revenue is down a little bit, but it's not down as much as we thought. The problem is that the revenue lags behind. So I don't think we've actually hit where businesses haven't paid their taxes, because they're paying their sales taxes in the rear, and then the state is taking it time to pass it on to us. And so we really think we may be 2 or 3 months behind when we actually see our revenue. But based on the projections that our financial advisor has given us, they are suggesting that we make some fairly steep budget cuts. And so I'm going to share those. I presented these to the town council last week. And so I wanted to at least share them with you guys as well. Our food and beverage budget last year was about $1.6 million. If we left it at that level, we actually would have spent down our fund balance and gone negative by 2022. So I was advised to make some reductions in the budget. And so what I'm showing you guys here is what we call our Form 2, our Form 1, which this is the budget that we actually submit to the state to approve. And so there's 4 characters in our budget. So if you see at the very top of my screen, we have a character 1, which is personnel services. And so this is salaries, and this is what everybody is paid. And so the good news is that with all of this, we think we're able to do everything we want to do without having to cut back on any of our staff or any of our personnel. And so that's good. Rudy and Delbert don't need to sweat. Same thing with operating supplies. We don't really have to do anything there. And if you guys recall, every year, kind of when I talk to you guys about the budget, this is one of the things I kind of always talk about, that we want to be careful about not getting character 1 heavy, which is personnel and salaries, and that we want most of our expenditures to be in what we kind of call character 3 and character 4, which are capital investments, or they're one-time expenditures. They're not reoccurring expenses. And so we kind of focus on that. So if you guys kind of recall from when I show you guys the budget, I kind of have operating, I have debt, and I have capital projects. And we always try to keep our operating light, because operating is reoccurring expenses. And so this situation that we've got ourselves into, which is by no fault of ours, is a perfect example of why we do this. And so we're basically able to make some decisions to reduce capital expenditures, which means we just delay projects, but we don't have to lay off employees or do anything like that, or our operations actually don't have to suffer because we're not personnel heavy. So I won't go through all of these, but if you see here, so in this character 3, I'm going to summarize a couple of the larger items that we're recommending a reduction. So what you're seeing here is the total estimate is what we're recommending now. And then if you see in this next column over, it says what we've reduced. And so the majority of that number that's showing reduced is we had planned to update our bike and pedestrian master plan this year, which we expected to cost around $50,000. So at this point, we're going to assume that we're going to delay doing that update to our bike and ped master plan. Really, we wanted to retool and reprioritize, but our existing plan as a whole isn't changing, and we're kind of continuing to move projects forward for trails and sidewalks. So we think that's something we can live without for this year. The biggest cuts you'll see down further. And so here's the one that will make you guys all sad, which goes towards where we're at with our park site plan updates, is that based on our cash flow, we're actually recommending that we delay at least 1 year and maybe 2 years on doing our bond to do our park site plan improvements. And so we're basically backing away from that. Doing that saves us about $240,000. That's what we anticipated would be our bond payment for a $3 million bond. And so we're basically saying we're going to slow that down. Let's see what happens over the next few months. I did talk to the council and said that I wanted to continue moving the design forward so that when we do pull out of this and the revenue comes back, that we've got the design done and that we can just put the projects out to bid. So we are going to continue trying to move that forward, but it looks like the actual capital investment is going to have to wait. So a couple other things, we were going to do some expansion for some additional office space for our maintenance staff. Gary Gamble, our park superintendent, has done some of that. He did it with his own crew over the winter. And so we've kept a little bit of money to basically pay for what he did, but we were looking at doing an expansion to our maintenance facility. And so we're going to hold off on doing that. We were going to do some substantial beautification along the Ronald Reagan Parkway. And so we've left it so that we're still going to do some, but we're going to do a little bit less. So we reduced that 25,000. We were going to do some park and trail security cameras. We will probably not do the security cameras at this point, but we do want to put up some signs and stuff like that to help make our trail safe and to help people identify where they're at. So if they need to call for help in an emergency, people can respond. This is in particular is for the White Lake Creek Trail. So if someone calls and says, I'm on the White Lake Creek Trail, well, how do they know where they're at on the White Lake Creek Trail? And if an emergency responder is trying to respond, how do they go about finding them? So we'd like to create a signage system to basically help resolve that situation. Then the final two was we were hoping to pave the south parking lot, which is the gravel lot right in front of the town hall. And so we had budgeted about $100,000 to do that. So we're going to hold off on doing that expenditure. And then we are still, this isn't really a park issue, but we've partnered on a grant with the Army Corps of Engineers to stabilize County Road 625 East. And so in working with them, we're going to do some of the design with them this year, but we're actually going to hold off on doing the construction until next year. And so all in all here down at the end, you can see the original budget was about almost 1.7 million, and we've had to cut about $630,000. So again, all of this stuff can come back. It's not permanently lost, but it's at this point, we're just saying we intend to underspend on these items so that we don't get ourselves in trouble in future years. And then this also buys us some time to kind of see what the overall impact of the pandemic on our restaurants has been and how that's going to negatively impact our food and beverage fund. So ultimately, we'll still keep pushing forward on getting our site plan updated. We're working on, if you guys recall, there was 2 phases, the site plan, and then we also had like the operational analysis, which again, I think that was good planning on our part to make sure that we were taking into account the operational impact of developing our parks, our new parks, because this is exactly the situation we could get into. If we make the capital investment and we have no operational dollars to pay for taking care of the new parks, then that's kind of a problem for us. So we're pushing through that portion of the study. We're also working on the Settlement West Park. We were delayed a little bit on the permitting side, but we got through that last month. So probably at your September meeting, V3, who is doing the site planning for the Settlement West Park, will probably be ready to do their presentation to you guys. So that will likely be on your September agenda. So you guys can look forward to seeing that as well, which means all of our site plans will basically be done and we can kind of continue completing our planning for this year. So I think that's all I've got, unless I can answer any questions for you guys.
So Ryan, you think it's for sure 1 year delay, but possibly 2? Is that how you would phrase it? Of the spending on the capital and the bond issue?
Yeah, I think without a doubt. Again, it'll be interesting to see how this pops back. You know, now that we're reopening, you know, we don't know if there'll be a second a second wave of the coronavirus that may cause us to shut down again in the fall. So assuming everything starts to go back to normal, there's potential that we could try to do it next year. I think the more conservative approach is probably that it'll be in 2022. But again, we'll just have to wait and see what the numbers look like. Sorry, I know that was really glum news, everybody.
Does Avon Parks have like a friends group or a way to kind of solicit donations or raise funds or anything like that?
We do. We have a park foundation. It's not very active, but actually I believe there's some money in the park foundation. When we developed the World War II Memorial Park, we actually paid for all the World War II Memorial Park by donations to the Parks Foundation, and then the Parks Foundation actually paid for the development. At one time when we were going to demolish the barn, we had a Friends of the Barn group that donated money. I think it was mostly Charlotte Martin. For those of you who know Charlotte, I think Charlotte donated $500 or something to it. So there's some money in there for saving the barn. And then we've partnered with the Community Parks Foundation as well, or the Hendricks County Community Foundation. They will help too with funds, and I know we've passed out envelopes to some of them. I don't know how successful they are, especially in the current environment. I don't know what their donations are looking like at this point, but we do have a couple of mechanisms in place if people would want to do it.
Okay. I know Eagle Creek, their friends group made a bunch of money selling park benches. So you'd buy a bench, you'd get to put like donated by whatever family. That could be something interesting. Help beautify the trails and give people a place to sit down. I know after a mile I can take a break. So. I think, yeah, because you're right. I think for the next 2 years, cash is going to be strapped, like especially in government, really bad. So I think getting creative will be the best way to get something moved forward.
What is behind you there? Where are you at? Avon something.
Us,
Oh,
guys
Avon
download-
Parks. Okay.
yeah, download the logo.
Oh, nice.
You guys need to step your game up.
Oh, I got you using the virtual background.
Yeah, it was that or Easter eggs.
I thought maybe you had a dedicated room in your house for Avon Parks. I was really impressed. I was like, maybe.
I take this very seriously.
So, all right. Any other discussion? Any thoughts, ideas here?
Well, real quick, and this is tying back to the naming, and then there was mention about the Blue Star Memorial. I guess that Dan Jones has been dedicated or identified as a Blue Star Memorial. What's the right term there, Ryan?
Blue Star Memorial Parkway.
Parkway. Thank you. I didn't know if any of the green spaces are on along Dan Jones that might lend themselves to enhancing, doing some things along that theme.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, Dave, the 100 North in Dan Jones piece, in the 150 in Dan Jones piece as well may be options. Those are both kind of along that Blue Star Parkway corridor.
Are they spaces that would eventually be connected with some sidewalks or trails that maybe they're not today? I mean, that would be one thing if you have features there that people can't really get to it by walking or whatever. But it's another thought, and I'm just kind of planting that seed with the group to think about that, maybe in the context of Dan Jones Road.
Yeah. All right. So I guess that kind of falls in other business, well, actually kind of what we already talked about, but I guess next on the agenda is other business and the next agenda. Are there any topics for that? I think we've talked about a few that we're going to come back to. Ryan, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I don't have it. I think, like I said, I think Settlement West will probably be on your next agenda. And then we'll revisit the naming parks as well.
Okay. Well, I'd say as we go, we can gather ideas for the next agenda and add them as we get them. So it looks like we're about at the end of our hour. So that actually timed out pretty decently. Does anyone else have any other discussions? If not, does someone want to make a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
I'll second it.
All right. Well, I think we can adjourn then. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Hopefully,
Nice to see everyone.
yeah, good to see everyone. Next meeting is September 3rd, just so everybody knows. So hopefully we'll be able to do that in person.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Very good. Thanks.